How is everyone doing today? And in this video, we are going to be going over Pridewind's tier list in regards to Jade. And of course, I don't want to specifically look at the Memory of Chaos version or the Pure Fiction version or the Apocalyptic Shadow version in specific. We are going to be talking about Jade for a quick moment in regards to her power in some of these modes for a short moment in the video. But I do want to overall talk about the value of a lot of these 5 stars and what we should be expecting in the future. I do think at the moment, right now in Star Rail, we have so many choices in regards to some of the best characters in the game, some of the more niche units, and also overall, looking how we have 3 different end game modes as well. We should probably start considering the value of a lot of these 5 stars when they release, and what exactly can they do when it comes to their kit and what they're allowed to be able to function as when it comes to Memory of Chaos, when it comes to Pure Fiction, when it comes to Apocalyptic Shadow. Because I do think overall we should probably see in the future that we might want to start cross using a lot of these characters in each mode. And Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow are kind of synonymous with being able to use the same type of units. But of course, Pure Fiction is a whole different story. So I do want to talk about all of these 3 endgame modes, and according to a lot of these 5 stars, what we should be expecting, what we should be looking out for, and especially the value of a lot of these guys when it comes to what we need to start looking at in regards to these characters' kits and what they can be used for. Before we get into all that, make sure you leave a like, comment, sub, all that different type of stuff, and let me know what your favorite 5-star unit is at the current moment. I currently would love to try out Jade, but I lost my 50-50, so Lamau. But let's go ahead and start talking about Jade right now in Pure Fiction, of course, because I think this is the easiest one to explain, which is Jade, without a doubt, no matter what. It doesn't matter how you look at it in regards to her kit, in regards to her power. Pure Fiction wise, Jade is by far one of the best units in the game, without a doubt. And this is something that's not going to be taken away from her, only because she works as a sub DPS slash support, and this kind of puts her in an almost permanent spot in Pure Fiction for the rest of her days. I think at the moment, with her having the most unconditional follow-up, with not having to worry about Herta doing, you know, the half health thing, same thing with Himiko not having to worry about the breaks, Jade just basically says, here's a buff, whenever you hit, I get stacks, whenever I hit, I get stacks, follow up, use your ultimate, get a stronger version of that follow-up, and that's overall really good for Jade, and it's almost undeniable that she's going to be one of the god tier characters in this mode. Now looking at something like Apocalyptic Shadow and Memory of Chaos, of course, we start to see that Jade isn't doing so well in these modes. She's tier 3, of course, and Memory of Chaos, and of course, this is a definite tier list in regards to the power of where they're at. This is just a baseline or a foundation of what I'm just using to speak about these characters. But overall, some of these ratings can be a little accurate, but I'm not going to 100% say she's a full tier 3 character. I'm just saying 100% she is nowhere near some of these higher characters in regards to the power in Memory of Chaos specifically. Same way of Apocalyptic Shadow, we definitely see that she's a little bit lower in power in these modes because of a certain inherent problems that she has in her kit. Of course, the unconditional follow-up is a pretty cool thing to have, but in regards to all the other characters you could probably fit in a team with any other unit, it kind of leaves a lackluster taste when it comes to the value that you're able to put in that slot when you're looking at someone like Jade versus someone like Bronya, someone like Pella, someone like Silverwolf, Robin, Sparkle, Tingyun, Ruame. The sky's the limit with the amount of characters you can slot in versus Jade that give you way more damage overall versus another character doing damage whenever your main DPS does their damage. So there's one thing I do want to say in regards to these modes is that she doesn't provide enough power or enough damage to be able to do a consistent amount of team up time of how much DPS you're doing. And looking at how she's able to perform in Memory of Chaos, Apocalyptic Shadow, it just isn't enough to be able to give her a actual slot or use for a lot of these teams. And the one thing I want to say before we get further into this, when looking at these 5 stars, because that is going to be the next topic where we're talking about the value and how we should look at them as the future goes by, because right now we have an extensive roster, and talking about new units, talking about reruns is definitely going to be a topic that I'm going to be bringing up a lot as time goes by. And I really want to say really quickly that Jade, even though I've seen comments, I've seen other people make videos about it, Jade can 0 cycle. But of course, who couldn't if you gave them 3 different supports with their signature light cones? And this is something that I've seen a lot of people say, that Jade is still good in MOC, Jade is able to 0 cycle, so she's up there with some of the best. When you are using 3 supports, I kind of count that as an invalid test. I'm not gonna lie, because in my eyes, for a character to show their value, I would like to say you should follow the traditional team structures to be able to work around how they actually do in some of these modes. Looking at someone like, let's say Acheron, you want to have Acheron, which is your main DPS, 2 nihilities, and then a sustain. Same thing with many of the general DPS in the game. Same thing with Dan Heng. You have a Dan Heng, 2 sustainers, or not 2 sustainers, but 2 supporters and 1 sustain. You can even go down the Dr. Ratio route where you have the main DPS, the sub DPS, a support, and then you have your sustain. Some way, shape, or form, there needs to be a sustain and support on the team. The other 2 spots are flexible. Having a team with Jade and let's say Robin, Ruame, Sparkle, Bronya, whoever else you want to say, that is overall overkilling the amount of units you have for that one team. And that makes it to the point where you're over there struggling with the second team because you decided to use all your harmonies on one side of MOC, which in my opinion, I just don't like that as a team structure personally. And definitely going forwards in talking about a lot of the 5 stars and their value, I think we should definitely start looking at these 5 stars and say how many events can they clear with them alone. And talking about that, I wanted to say, let's say Acheron for an example. Acheron we know has absolutely absurd damage and eventually is going to get even stronger with more Nihility characters that come out. She's an almost everlasting growth option for your account if you end up pulling Acheron, and seeing how she's able to do a massive amount of damage in MOC, how she's able to absolutely destroy an Apocalyptic Shadow as well, just to the sheer amount of AoE and damage she's able to do. But you also see that she's able to hold her own inside of Pure Fiction as well, because you have these Nihility units that are able to debuff all those characters on the field, and that allows Acheron to get her stacks. She has full-on AoE on her ultimate. She does an absurd amount of damage. She's most likely going to KO whoever the heck you have on the field when it comes to the enemies you're dealing with. So that is by far one of the best investments you could probably make onto your account, because she works in so many different modes. I think as time goes by, especially looking at reruns, looking at the future characters like Yunli and Jiaoqiu, we should 100% be looking and testing and documenting how many modes can they finish and how easy is it for them to finish them. Especially looking at supports, can they work in Memory of Chaos? Are they variable in Memory of Chaos? Same with Pure Fiction, are they viable there? And Apocalyptic Shadow is the same. Now it's a little bit easier for them to work in all 3 modes because they're just supporting the character that does the damage. Of course, the DPSs are going to be the main point of concern, because depending on how their kit works, really harms them in regards to cross using them in other modes. Same thing with Buhel, how he's almost a god tier character in MOC and a really good character in Apocalyptic Shadow. He is definitely going to struggle a great bit when it comes to Pure Fiction because of his single target nature. Same thing with characters like Dr. Ratio, same thing with characters like Dan Heng, with how he has so many different skill points that he has to use to be able to get those 3 enemies down. When you have a full wave of 5, that's going to be a little bit hard to use, especially with the units that you're going to have to pull on that team to be able to do the sub DPS. It's really hard for Dan Heng to be able to match up with all these other characters like Himiko, like Herta, like Argenti, and also Acheron. Argenti is specifically a character I do specifically want to talk about, only because I feel like he has not only the most, of course, good potential inside Pure Fiction because of his full-on AoE hits, how he's able to spread his damage out, really good thing for him, but he is in a really nice position for Memory of Chaos, and I know he's listed really low on the tier list, but characters like Argenti is what we kind of need, not in the sense of what he does and the power he's able to provide, but more because he has portions of his kit that changes with whatever mode he's on. And this is what I want to speak about, which is again the cross use of characters in these different endgame modes. Argenti, of course, in Pure Fiction, like we said before, he's one of the best characters there because he hits the whole wave, because his ult's able to spread out. But the cool thing about Argenti is it only spreads to whoever is alive. So if you have a Memory of Chaos where you have 5 enemies at the start, he's able to deal with all 5 enemies at the same time. The cool thing about his ultimate is that it shows a more sense of damage, I guess you could say, when there's less enemies on the field, because now it has less spots to spread, and now they all have that concentrated damage, especially if you could time your ultimate to where there's 1 enemy on the field only. Now they're taking all those additional hits by themselves, and that's a really cool thing for Argenti. And I definitely think we should probably get more characters like Argenti, not in specific for his kit, but more to the fact that his ult or his kit changes depending on what mode he's in. And I think that's a very interesting aspect to have to a character, to be able to make it to where they have full-on AoE. But if there's only 1 character, I can deal with them too with my maximum amount of damage. All my additional hits are hitting 1 enemy, and that's a really good thing for him. Now, of course, this is a setback for him in Pure Fiction. That's why he's so low, because as soon as you start getting to that point where you have only 1 enemy or 2 enemies or even 3 enemies, he starts to get less stacks for his energy. He starts to get less stacks for his crit damage that he gets by himself. There's a lot of things that he loses because there's less enemies on the field, and that's why he's inherently weak in Memory of Chaos and also Apocalyptic Shadow. But looking at what I was speaking about before is that we definitely should be seeing characters that either have their kits changed or they have a little bit of nuance to it where they start, I guess, specializing the damage into one enemy. When they see that there's only one boss on the field left, let me go ahead and put all my damage to that one guy instead of trying to spread it out, which I used to do before. I think we need to start looking at these 5 stars in regards to how many modes they're able to complete with Memory of Chaos, Pure Fiction, Apocalyptic Shadow, because this opens up more opportunity for you to be able to pull whoever you want, in all honesty. Because if you get a character like Acheron, they're good in Pure Fiction, they're good in Apocalyptic Shadow. This is something that all of us know from the start because of her AoE, how fast it is to get her ultimate. She's able to do well in all of these modes. That is one team for you to be able to brute force easily with all of these modes. So you have Acheron for every single slot for Team 1. Now to worry about Team 2, you could do the same thing. Go for a character that's able to do multiple modes at the same time. And if not the case for you to do multiple modes at the same time, then you can start looking at, okay, let me get one other 5-star for Pure Fiction, or let me get one other 5-star for Memory of Chaos, and let me call it a day. Same thing with how you get Firefly. She brute forces any contest she wants to be in when it comes to Memory of Chaos and also Apocalyptic Shadow with the weakness implant that you have. Same thing with Boohill. Good in Memory of Chaos, good in Apocalyptic Shadow, but not that great in Pure Fiction. You know what's the great thing about Firefly? She's actually able to do well in Pure Fiction because she synergizes with Himiko, because Firefly's technique implants fire onto every enemy when they come up from the wave, and that is a very strong thing for her to have because that allows her to break whoever the heck she wants, which is a very strong thing for Himiko specifically, who we know is a very, very important character in Pure Fiction. I just want to look at when we start seeing these reruns pop up, looking at Sparkle, looking at Robin, looking at characters like Silverwolf and Pella, we should 100% start looking at not only the supports, but also the DPS that are going to benefit from multiple of these modes. The reason why I'm leaving Sustain out of the picture is because, to be honest, the Sustains don't really do much in regards to all of these modes. They all pretty much do the same job. Just keep you alive for the most part, and that's pretty much it. I think some of the more important roles are definitely the supports and DPSs, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, for the most part, a lot of these modes just really like to have the same sustains where they're at. There's not really much of a difference when it comes to the amount that you're getting done with the sustains. Can they help? Yes, 100%. Same thing with like Adventuring for the follow-up team. You have Ho for the dot team, and then Fushwin, of course, for general DPS. But for the most part, you can use any sort of combination when it comes to whatever team you're using in these modes. But looking at the supports and DPSs, we definitely should start looking at characters that start to mix and mingle in regards to these modes. That way you're able to spend less Jades for the most amount of value, and you can start summoning on whoever you want if you see that they have a fun playstyle. And that overall helps you in regards to your account and having more fun. But of course, if you see a character like Jade, let's say this because she's the brand new character, and you really like Jade, you really like her playstyle, you like her design, all the different type of stuff, and you enjoy Jade for who Jade is, but you don't need a specific Pure Fiction character, you already have your Pure Fiction characters done, go ahead and summon for her if you want. If you find yourself having more fun, that you're able to enjoy the game a little bit more with a character that you like Jade, then of course that takes #1 priority over what I just said in regards to being the most efficient with your Jades. For looking at these characters that are probably going to mix and mingle in regards to completing all 3 modes. I do say that that is 100% one thing you should consider is your enjoyment for the character over how good they are, because then that's going to make it to where if you don't enjoy the character, you're not going to enjoy the game, and then you're probably not going to be able to do anything in the game because you're going to want to drop it. So if you are looking towards a character and you are very excited for them, let's say for Yunli, go ahead and get Yunli. But if you wanted to go ahead and get some more value in regards to what DPSs, what supports we should be looking at, is definitely characters that are going to be able to work in every single mode. Something like Acheron, Ruame, Robin. I would say, you know what's funny? I wouldn't say Jing Yuan because he actually is really good in a couple of these modes. Like, although we give him a lot of flack, he can be used in a good bit of these modes. I won't lie to you, because he's been able to do a lot of stuff in regards to staying relevant to a lot of the characters that are in the game at the moment, and that is a very hard thing to do, specifically when you're looking at characters like Boohill and Firefly and how insane they are, and of course looking at how the old giants of Dan Heng and Jingliu and Acheron, how great they are. Genuine somehow has been able to stay afloat. Same thing with Cele. Cele for some reason has been able to stay afloat inside this meta that has been aging for a very long time, so that's super cool to see. But let me know what you think in regards to the values of 5 stars. Let me know what you think when it comes to how we should be looking at them. What is the most important thing to look at besides, of course, liking the character itself? But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. On to the end of the video. See y'all guys in the next one, and peace.